Thanks, Deb. Hi, everybody. So we're starting something new today. Technology. We'll see how it goes. But I do have a hard copy right here just in case, because you never know. So anyway, but great. It's so good to be here. It's good to see all you guys this morning. And I've been thinking so much about gratitude, thanks to Reverend Sherry. Thank you so much for that practice that you gave us this week of just really just paying attention, and especially just gratitude and thankfulness. And I have to admit, I've struggled with gratitude in the past. I've had a hard time pulling up gratitude and seeing things to be grateful for, because what I'm realizing is that I focus on what's going wrong in my life instead of what's going right in my life. And I also have like expectations, right? I have expectations of what it's supposed to look like, and they pretty much were always unfulfilled. And so I never really had the opportunity to be grateful, because there was some things that everything was, things were going okay, but there was always something that wasn't quite up to par, something that wasn't quite there. So am I the only one with that one? Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. Just wondering. Yeah. Just checking in there. So, yeah. So luckily in my spiritual journey, thank goodness for all my teachers, I've come to understand a little bit better about gratitude and just the hidden power within it. And really, like I always questioned what gratitude really was, because I would get it mixed up with thankfulness and appreciation, and I didn't really know if gratitude had like a special thing about it. So I'll give you the definitions and you tell me. So the definition of gratitude: the quality or feeling of being grateful or thankful. Okay. Definition of thankful: feeling or expressing gratitude. Appreciative. Yeah. The definition for appreciation: grateful, thankful recognition. So I think they can probably be interchanged, right? So yeah. So when I was looking back this week after her talk and thinking really about gratitude and how hard sometimes it is for me to gather it up, I remembered back in the I think it was late 80s, early 90s, I read a little book by Deepak Chopra, and I think it was like the seven spiritual laws of success or something, and he talked about judgment. And that was the first time that I had really thought about judgment. And so what he suggested was to just notice how much judgment you have about the things in your life. Just notice your thoughts. And so looking back, what I realized is what it was a lesson on really getting to know the egoic mind, and just starting to pay attention to that. But at the time, I didn't know what that was. Looking back, I can see that now. So I just started to pay attention, and it was really startling to see that I had a judgment about literally everything I saw. It was scary, And so in my practice, I would go for walks, and in my walks, I would just notice things, right? I would look around and just notice the thoughts that were coming up about those things. And so I would be walking and looking at the yards and everything, and man, I'll tell you, I didn't like the fence. Too many weeds in the garden. The paint didn't match on the garage with the house, and heaven forbid someone walk by, because there was all kinds of judgments on that one, So it began to train me just to see how the egoic mind loves to categorize and decide if what it's seeing is good or bad, or right or wrong. And so reinforcing, obviously, its need for separation, because that's how the egoic mind works. So I began to just see the influence of judgment on my life. And I think that's what kind of made my shift. It was probably late 80s, early 90s when I really started a complete different spiritual journey from my roots. So once I developed the awareness that there really isn't anything good or bad or right or wrong, I was able to begin to start beginning to touch on gratitude. And when I say things or situations or even experiences aren't good or bad, what I mean is that those are just facts. Those are just facts. They have no meaning except for the meaning that we put on them. We are the subjective judge deciding what's good or bad and right or wrong. So my happiness was contingent, obviously, on all my judgments. Or as Maria Felipe would say, and I can't say it like she says it all, obviously, but that my lack of happiness was because of my cuckoo thoughts, right? So you can't be in judgment and gratitude at the same time. They're conflicting energies. So when we're in gratitude, we're in spirit. We're working from the place of spirit. And when we're in judgment, we're in the egoic mind. And the cool thing is that ego cannot be, when you're in gratitude, ego cannot exist, because ego cannot exist in the moment, in the present moment. And gratitude comes from present moment, in present moment experience. So without judgment, we're able to be grateful for every situation, no matter how difficult. We can be grateful for difficult situations, knowing that we are growing our soul by being given this opportunity, as hard as sometimes it is. And gratitude for an experience can create space for understanding, acceptance, and growth. The Apostle Paul says in the Hebrew scriptures, in all things give thanks. Now, Paul didn't say for all things give thanks. Kind of like when you're growing up and your jeans had holes and they had patches, and you better be happy that you have jeans, you know? That's when holes in the jeans weren't cool, you know? It's like... I had patches all over my jeans. Yeah. That's interesting, because my granddaughter, who wears big holes in her jeans, she went to her boyfriend, at the time her boyfriend's grandparents' house, and they were really offended that she wore holey jeans, you know. And then my daughter went to visit my mom, and she had holey jeans. And my mom, when they all went to happy hour with my mom, which she loves to do with all her friends, she had to tell everybody that my daughter was not homeless. So that's just that whole generational thing. Anyway, I totally got off on that one. Anyway, so he doesn't say be thankful for all things, but what Paul does say is in all things be thankful. Eric Butterworth explains in his book Spiritual Economics that despite the problems or lack, or even because of them, the need is to get yourself recentered in the awareness of the ever-presence of substance. And the most effective way to accomplish this is by thanksgiving. Paul is stressing the importance of a thankful heart, not simply just an expression of gratitude of things, but a heart that is grateful, full of greatness. This is a cosmic idea that has been taught throughout all ages. Gratitude is not the effect of liking something. It is not something we do. It is a state of being or a quality, a consciousness. Just a consciousness of who we are. It comes from a place of acceptance, which I was not doing, so I could not find gratitude. It comes from acceptance of what is without the judgment. The universal law of gratitude creates a cycle that influences other universal laws, the universal law of give and take, of cause and effect, and the law of attraction. This is the hidden power of gratitude, that through this cycle it becomes a channel for receiving and giving. It opens the heart to receive, and from the overflowing place of receiving, it opens a channel for giving. Gratitude is a prerequisite or requirement for both receiving and giving. The receiving from a consciousness of gratitude and thankfulness is how we co-create with the divine, as expressed in Unity's third principle. Unity's third principle states that our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs have the power to create our reality. Even though we think of it as co-creating with God, this law also works for those who have no concept of God, because that's how the universal laws work. It's like gravity. The law has been referred to as the law of attraction, the law of mind action, the science of mind, and others. It's more widespread recently, although it's an ancient teaching, as we all know. The Buddha said, all that we are is a result of what we have thought. If a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him. If a man speaks or acts with a pure thought, happiness follows him, like a shadow that never leaves him. I love that visual. Your happiness just right there all the time. And quantum science, yay, helps us understand a law of life that until now was simply received by intuition and practiced by spiritual masters. But now the science is caught up with that, and quantum physics absolutely proves it. Ellen Davenport, in her book entitled The Five Principles, talking about the unity principles, explains that not only is there no predestination for our lives, no blueprint or fate, but we are choosing moment to moment what happens to us and for us. In fact, God's ongoing creation happens through us, through our consciousness, our collection of feelings and beliefs. We can see how a consciousness of gratitude plays a big role in this co-creating, this divine partnership that we have. We tend to think of gratitude and thankfulness as the effect of what we've experienced. But gratitude is actually a cause. Dr. Joe Dispenza says that gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. It's a ready state, a thankful state of what is to come. I love that. He teaches in his meditations to generate a feeling of gratitude without any physical evidence of something to be grateful for. And that's difficult. I've tried that. In this grateful state or consciousness, we raise our vibrational frequencies to match what is our intended state of being or experience. So he's saying that we know what we want, we picture what we want, and then we already express the gratitude in order to become the frequency to be able to attract that into our lives or to create that. And Plato articulated it best when he said, "A grateful mind is a great mind, which eventually attracts to itself great things." An abundant, grateful state of mind assumes that we will have what we need, even when we don't have a clue from where it's going to come from. As we experience an attitude of gratitude or a consciousness of gratefulness more often, even when things are not what we want them to be, it opens our hearts to receive. The more we make gratitude a part of our everyday experience, the more likely we are to express generosity as well. Our willingness and ease in giving comes from our ability to be grateful. We cannot give what we do not have. And if we're not in a state of gratitude, we are in a state of lack, and so we have nothing to give from. Generosity and gratitude dance together and support each other. The presence of both depend on an open, compassionate heart, a willingness to share life's bounty, and a basic belief in life's abundance. This is how we live Unity's fifth principle, which is expressing God in our world. Everyone is going to express God in a unique way. The outpouring of the love and abundance within will be the manifestation that you express. Giving what we have received, especially in consciousness, is our generosity to the world. Every action comes from a feeling, which comes from a belief or thought, which is harnessed by what we observe and what we choose to focus on. When our focus is on the absolute truth of who we are and our true nature, our divine expression, our actions are in alignment with our true nature. We give from the abundant overflow of that consciousness. I want to close with this. From the author of Money, The Soul of Money. I don't know if you guys have read that. It's a great book by Lynn Twist. This was on a podcast not very long ago, I heard, and it was such a great visual of what we're talking about here. Gratefulness is the experience of the great fullness of life. And when you're in the great fullness of life, the bowl of life is so full that it's almost full, but not quite yet dripping over the edges. And you're one with God, you're one with the universe, and there is no other when you stand and live in the great fullness of life. And that great fullness is so powerful that it overflows into the fountain of life. And that puts you in another branch of gratitude called thanksgiving. And when you're in the branch of life called thanksgiving, the bowl of life is overflowing, and you're so grateful that there is another, because all you want to do is give and share and contribute. And that's so fulfilling that it puts you back in the great fullness of life. So you can live in that cycle no matter what your circumstances. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.